Jayatam Surabhangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasya Pagamboja Vada Mohan Mohana Divya Prindaranya Matanurvata Srimad Radha Sanasta Srimad Radha Shri Govinda Deva Prestali Sevyamana Smarami Shri Ramami Vamsivaka Tatastita Karshan Venu Swanar Gopir Gopinata Sri Sengana Vrindayani Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Kesavasya Krishna Bhakti Pranudevi Satmo Namaha Panchatattvam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhakta Bhakta
Yeah.
Can I pass them?
What is it? So we know. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Jesus
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda?
No.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Jesus
It's page 200 in the book.
Doya Koromora.
Jive, Daya, Kodi. Jive, it's Jive.
The bottom one there.
The bottom one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, that's a good way.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Prabhu ki jai. Welcome, Prabhu. We've invited you here, mostly, of course, the devotees here. We just came to visit, because in general, if we don't have some sadhu sangha from time to time, we start to wane in our practices and our devotion. So we need some inspiration from the sadhus, and so we invite them to come. In particular, Janava has, although she works full time, she has a family to take care of somehow or other. She has been, the one working hardest to pull this off. And strangely, the next person who's been working the hardest to pull this off has a job and a new baby. Oh, I forgot. Shruti is now what? Jai Shri. And so many devotees are helping, but there's so much to do tomorrow, especially. So the devotees who serve the most, are going to, realize the most benefit. So there's lots of opportunities to help with the feast tomorrow and so many things. So without further ado.
Pavan Parmadhyal Premagata Vanmata Kumasi Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Prema Purushottama Sachinandan Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. Nitai Gaura Sikanatha Premanande Vivo. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gauravata Vrinda Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gauravata Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gauravata Vrinda. It's kirtan. Someone plays cartels. Last time I was here, remember? Wait a minute. We're having some retrograde Mercury experiences here. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Shiva Gaurava Govinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Govinda O Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Govinda Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurava Vrinda Shri Chaitanya By the mercy of C.C. Gornitai and the Harinam Sankirtan, then one can go up. Higher than that. To Golok Vrindavan. Vale Vrindavan Velal ki jai, Sri Radharaman Lal ki jai, Vare Saniwali ki jai, Jai Jai Sri Radha Govinda Jai Jai, Gopal Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopal Jai Jai, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopal Jai Jai. Govinda Jai Jai, Gopal Jai Jai. Govinda Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Don't be so funny.
Let's come here. Nam Shristam Manvati Suchiputram Atrasupam Rupam Tassagrajamurim Maturim Osva Radha Kunda Magivaram Ahoradika Madhvasam Raptoris Pratita Kripaya Sri Guru Tannatosmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Anandalilavaya Vikrahaya Hema Bhadvyatstavi Sundaraya Chandraya Namo Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Bhakta-vihina aparadalaxe Jivdasta-kama-vikoram-kamahati Kripamaikam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarabandam Vrinde Namaste Charanarabandam Govinda Namo Dharamadaveti Govinda Namo Dharamadaveti Govinda Namo Dharamadaveti Govinda Namo Dharamadaveti Hey Krishna Hey Adava Hey Saketi Govinda Namo Dharamadaveti Sham Sundar Sikanda Sikha Smahar Sumurli Manohara Radhika Sikamama Kripanihi Supriya Charna Kim Karim Kuru Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvayavana Jividyaya Devi Tam Namam Charantikam. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers, thousands and thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmadir Paramradhatama Guru Padapad, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Ashtol Tarasata Sri, Rupanuga Charivarya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayani Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev and to Srila Prabhupada and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Pranam. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Vancha Kalpataru. by the cautious mercy of Sri Guru and Gauranga, today we are beginning our Nam Tattva festival. For 4 days we want to deeply deliberate on Nama Mahima, the glories of the holy name, Tattva, the reality, and the deep philosophical principles in regard to taking shelter of the holy name and experiencing the prakash, the illumination, the spurti of Nam, Rup, the form of the name Sri Krishna, and his qualities, associates, and Nitya-lila, eternal pastimes. Our Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhusa Avasrai Pratisloki Pratyakri Nana Artakai. The Srimad Bhagavatam is just like Sri Krishna. As Sri Krishna is the shelter of all existence, so is Srimad Bhagavatam the shelter of all living beings. As Sri Krishna is all-pervading, all-powerful, so Srimad Bhagavatam is his Vanmaya Murti, his literary incarnation. Pratisloki Pratyakris Nana Artakai, all the syllables, every letter, every word, every letter has many, many meanings. Jala Bhagavata Pada Vaishnavastani Ekanta Sraikaro Chaitanyatani. Sort of Dhammaga Swami said, if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, if you want to study it, by independent study, no one can understand it. But rather, one must go and sit at the feet of a pure Vaishnava. And being in the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and listen. Then, Chaitanya Bhaktagana Nitya Karasanga Tavata Janive Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. By associating again and again with the Gaura Priya Jana, those who are very near and dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, gradually one will be able to enter into the waves in the ocean of Siddhanta, established truths. So, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Swarup Sri Bhagavata Sarva Veda Shastra Vaiti Parama Mahatva. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana, is superior to all other Puranas. Before the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all Vaishnavas, they honored the Puranas. But Bhagavatam was just one of them. But it was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who revealed that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest of all. Srila Vyasadev's final contribution is his most complete and perfect revelation. So, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Swarup Sri Bhagavata, this Srimad Bhagavatam is full of Bhakti Rasa, Sarva Veda Shastra Vaiti Parama Mahatva, and it is supermost among all the Vedic literatures. So, that's Srimad Bhagavatam. By hearing again and again from the Bhakta Bhagavat, from the devotee, who is the embodiment of Srimad Bhagavatam, in whose throat all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are standing, waiting to jump out, very eagerly. In the association of Bhakta Bhagavat then, Nasta Praishu Bhadvareshu Nitam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tumasloki Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. By listening, everything which is inauspicious in our heart is removed. Nasta Praishu Abhadreshu. Here, Abhadra, inauspicious thing, Abhadrani, inauspicious things, actually refers to Nam Aparad. What is inauspicious in our life is offenses to the holy name. because they are the obstacles that prevent us from experiencing the rasamrita, the nectar of the rasa in the holy name. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is such a beautiful shastra. By hearing it from a realized personality, gradually all the internal obstacles in the form of non-apparats, they're removed step by step by step. And when they are not fully gone but mostly gone, 75% gone, then realized in the stage of Nishtha, some realization of Krishna will appear. And then the devotee becomes established in bhakti. He will not turn around and go back. Now, he has made a connection with the higher reality. Gradually taste asakti, deep attachment, and ultimately bhav, transcendental emotion will appear. So, it may not be apparent upon independently studying Srimad Bhagavatam how the science of chanting the holy names has been described there. So in accordance with the revelation of our great acharyas, we want to discuss step by step how Srimad Bhagavatam, often in an indirect way, is revealing the glories of the holy name and the path of Nam Sankirtan. In the first verse it is said, Satyam Param Dhimahi. We meditate on the supreme truth. And in the final verse it says, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya. So in a Vedic literature, this is one of the techniques of writing or expressing an idea in Vedic literature. And that is, there should be a point of commonality between the opening and the closing of the text. It's called Upapram Upasanha. So the commonality here, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhimahi means we meditate. It's in the plural. And in the end, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya. Nam Sankirtan, the loud congregational chanting of the holy names has been glorified. So the beginning and the end are pointing to the same thing. Because generally we don't think of meditation as being a group practice. So Satyam Param Dhima, we meditate, means we go into the state of samadhi trance by the loud congregational chanting of the holy name. So Srimad Bhagavatam is pointing to this and illustrating it in so many ways. Now, Nam Tattva. On the pretext of describing how the Vedas appear in this world and how the Vedas, through language, which is understandable, which is expressible, can be articulated in words, the supreme absolute truth, which is beyond this world, can be expressed. Because one may say, oh, God has no name. Or how can a God have a name? People have only, human beings have created names and they have superimposed them upon God. So all these conceptions are wrong. Why they're wrong? And why the holy name is not different from God? Why it is nirgun, transcendental, eternal, beyond this world, an inseparable feature of His Swarup. All this is expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam on the pretext of the discussion of how the Vedas appear in this world. Because the principle by which the Vedas appear in this world and the way in which the holy name appears in this world is the same. Is that clear? Understand? Srimad Bhagavatam is a masterpiece of Vyanjan Briti. Vyanjan Briti means not direct expression. Direct expression is called Abhida Briti, the direct dictionary primary meaning of words. Then you have Lakshana Briti. Lakshana means associated meaning. where the meaning is not directly in the words, but it's something associated with those words. Like Gangayam Goshaha means the village on the Ganges. So, the village on the Ganges, well, that's not possible. You can't build a house on the water. Right? So by Lakshanvriti, the associated meaning, we actually mean the village on the bank of the Ganges. And then there's Vyanjanvriti. Vyanjanvriti means the suggested meaning. So if we say the village on the Ganges, the direct meaning makes no sense. The Lakshanvriti, associated meaning, we understand. But the Vyanjanvriti is, oh, that village is accessible by boat. Right? It's an implied meaning. So Srimad Bhagavatam is expressed mainly in Vyanjanvriti because it's poetry. And poetry is very beautiful, it's considered to be excellent if the actual meaning is there in the implication, in the suggestion. So, beginning our discussion of non-tattva, let's come to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, 87-1. This is the beginning of the famous chapter called Sruti Stuti. Sruti Stuti means the prayers of the Vedas personified. So this chapter begins with 2 verses, and these 2 verses themselves comprise an Upanishad, a separate Upanishad called the Brahma Upanishad. It's an Upanishad that appears within the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these 2 verses, the first verse is a question, and the second verse is the answer. So, yeah, parents, please perform your service of allowing the audience to slowly sink into a state of samadhi and not be in a state of distraction. Thank you. So, here's the verse. Sri Parikshit Uvacha Brahman Brahmya Nirdesye Nirgune Guna Vrittaya Katham Charanti Srutaya Sakshat Saga Satapari. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, O Shukadev Goswami, Brahman, the absolute truth, is anirdasya, indescribable by material words. Because it is nirgun, it is without material qualities. But all words refer to some material quality. So if we categorize all the words in the dictionary, you'll see that they indicate either a dravya, a substance, like water, fire, earth, stone, wood, a gun, a quality, like hardness, softness, hotness, coldness, liquidity and so on. Dravya, gun, kriya, and verbs, activities, running, talking, sleeping. Or jati. Jati means a universal, a samanya. Like dog, tree, human, these are universals. So all words refer to these things, but Brahman, the supreme truth, is none of these things. Brahman is not a dravya, not a material substance. Brahman has no material qualities. Brahman has no karma, fruitive activities. And that means activities performed by material senses to attain some temporary object. And Brahman has no jati, because jati is a universal. So if you have a universal like human, then the nature of a universal is that it can be instantiated in a number of particulars. For example, the universal of humanness is in you and you and you. So it's the nature of a jati that it's only a jati if it can be instantiated in different particular manifestations. So because Brahman is one, without a second, incomparable, and nothing is like Brahman, so then there's no jati. Because only Brahman is Brahman. So how is it possible that words which have a vritti, that is the power to express meaning, but they only express these 4 types of meaning, and none of them can relate to the supreme truth? So how can the Vedas directly describe Brahman, the greatest, the supreme? The word Brahman, Brinhayati iti Brahman. Brahma means that which is great and can make others great is Brahma, the greatest thing, the most expansive. So this was the question of Parikshit Maharaj, and he posed this question in direct language. All his words are abhidhabriti, the direct meaning. Now Shukadeva Goswami will reply. But Shukadeva Goswami, he's very rasic, he's very poetic. He's going to reply by Vyanjan Briti. So when you hear the answer, you go, wait a minute, that's not an answer. Was he listening to the question? That may be your first reaction. Because he's not answering in direct language. He'll answer in such a way that the answer is in the implications of what he's saying. So we can come. Next verse. You can repeat. Buddhindriya manapranam jananam asrijat prabhu matratam cha bhavatam cha atmani kalpanaya cha. He's saying that Buddhindriya manaprana, the buddhi, the intelligence of the living beings, the indriya, the senses of the living beings, mana, their minds, and their pran. Pran is, do you know what pran is? First there is prime matter. It has no characteristics. When God wants to create the world, the first manifestation from that prakriti, or prime matter, is called Mahat. And when that Mahat is present in our astral body, in our subtle body, it's called Chitta. So Chitta is the first and finest mature element. It's very bright, very, very sattvic, and also niskriya. It has, in its natural state, has no motion, no movement. But when the Kriya Shakti of the Lord activates Rajagun, the mode of passion, then that element of Chitta condenses and begins to move. And this is called Sutta Tattva, or the Mukhya Pran, the original Pran. When this Rajasic Pran condenses more, it becomes Ahankar, ego. And now it becomes solid. The solid shapes are in our consciousness are called sanskars or impressions. So whenever we look at something, our senses cause the chitta to transform and make a facsimile, a model of what we're looking at. And the soul is then looking at that model in his own chitta. You're not seeing the world directly. You are seeing a model of the world in your own chitta. And then when you look at something else, then that shape sinks into the subconscious. And that shape is stored in the chitta, in the subconscious mind, in the form of a sanskar, an impression. And when now all the physical forms of this world are transformations of tamagun, ignorance. So the more material impressions we collect in our chitta, the more the chitta becomes dark. And when there's a mass of dark impressions of the external physical world, that is called ahankar or ego. So, now, here Shukadeva Goswami is replying. He's saying, the manas, the mind of every living being, his buddhi, intelligence, his prana, which is activating all movements, both internal movements of the mind and external movements of the body. These instruments, which are given to the soul by God, have their artha. Artha means purposes. The Greek term is telos. And telos means the aims or the objectives of things. So everything has a purpose. The word artha in Sanskrit also means meaning. So meaning and purpose are the same thing. That's when we say what's the meaning of this, it means what's the purpose of it? What is it for? Whether it's with words, what is the purpose of this word? What does it mean to communicate? Or whether it's with the things of this world. Everything has a telos. Everything has a purpose. Everything has an artha. And the non-perception of the artha, the telos of things, is called maya, illusion. Ritertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chakmani. It's the definition of maya. Tad vidya maya yata vasho yata tamaha. Whatever you see, which is you experience it as being devoid of ultimate purpose. That perception you're having is now maya, illusion. Now, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that your mind, intelligence, your senses and your prana all have artha, purpose, objectives. But these objectives, the telos of them, is also in a hierarchy. And now, in the second part of the verse, he's explaining that hierarchy. He's saying, matratam cha bhavartam atmane kalpanaya cha. The word matra means anything that you can perceive with the senses and that you can measure. So, matratam, God has given you the senses, the prana and mind for the purpose of experiencing the sense objects. But this is a very low level. It's important when a soul has been in the animal species and then eventually takes birth in the human species. Now, it's 10 fingers, opposing thumbs. I can do so many things that could not be done in the other forms of life. And he starts to taste and experience the world. It's like a child learning. That soul is in a very primitive or infantile state of consciousness, but it's part of his development. It's coming up from the animal species, and now it's taking birth in the human. So matratam, the experience of the objects, and he wants to attain these objects for himself. So how does he do it? Through getting some wealth, economic development. And by that economic development, he can then purchase what he wants. Whatever, a beautiful house, beautiful car, a yacht, whatever. So, matratam, the Lord has given the senses for the purpose of engaging in artha, the collection of wealth by which you can experience various things. Artha. Then, matratam cha, bhavatam cha. Bhava means a rebirth. In the Vedas, there are yagyas, there are sacrifices which are performed, and there are duties in life by which in the next life one can go to a higher planet. One can go to Swargalok, heaven, and there enjoy with Indra and his associates. So, the Vedas give a prescription first for ordinary people. Or do you want to get something here and now? Okay, here's a yagya for you. Putrasti yagya. Putrasti yagya, if you do the sacrifice, you can get a son. But then later you think, oh, everything's temporary, everyone is going to die, where will I go? So the Vedas say, oh, Don't panic. Here's another yajna for you. It's called the Agnistoma Yajna. And by this sacrifice, you'll be able to go to heaven. So in this way, the living entity gets some taste for Dharma, for following religious principles, and gets some faith in the Vedas. So, matratam cha, bhavatam cha, atmane. Atmane means to fulfill one's purposes. Oh, do you want to experience higher planets, even Mahalok, Tapalok, Janalok? What do you want to experience in any level of this world? So here, matratam refers to the artha, that is attainment of economic development. Bhavatam refers to the following of dharma. Atmane refers to the development of kam, fulfillment of whatever desire one might have in the three worlds. And finally, alpanaya, akalpanaya. Here it says kalpanaya cha, according to phonetic combination. According to the rules of Sandhi, the word is akalpanaya, for the sake of akalpana. Now, kalpana means the creation, the mind's creation of non-correlated thought constructs. In other words, kalpanaya means the mind is creating non-correlated thought constructs. So akalpanaya means for the purpose of becoming free from those. In other words, becoming liberated from maya, from illusion. All the time, the general person is looking at the world, but it is filtered through their own mental conceptions, their preconceived ideas. This is called kalpana, imagination, or vikalpa, non-correlated thought constructs. Due to this vikalpa, many things that we accept to be just basic axiomatic truths, this is all actually vikalpa. For example, the first idea that I am this body, this is vikalpa. It is a creation of the mature intelligence. The very concept of subject and object in relation to the world is vikalpa, a creation of buddhi, of the mature intelligence. The idea that all things around us are self-existent, they're just sitting there, existing by themselves, without God being present, supporting and actually manifesting everything. All vikalpa. Vikalpa or kalpana is also synonym of the word sanshaya, doubt. So sometimes we say, oh, a person, he may have doubt in God. But when in the Shastra said that, Vidyate hridayagrantis chadyante sarvasanshaya, when the knot of ego in the heart is pierced and all doubts go away, it's not referring to like doubt, I have a doubt in the intellectual concept of the existence of God. And someone says, I have no doubt. I have complete belief in the intellectual concept of the existence of God. That's what it means. Here, the kalpana, or vikalpa, or the doubt, is the actual experience, or rather, the actual non-experience of God at every moment. So when kalpana is removed, when our mind is not filtering the experience of reality, then what do we experience? Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam janmanam ante Gyanavamam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, when one is actually situated in knowledge, then he surrenders to me. Why? Nothing else to do. Vasudeva sarvamiti, because he sees, oh Krishna, you are everything. Sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. In chapter 6, Sri Krishna said, Yo mam pasyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pasyati tasyaham na pranasyami sachamena pranasyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him and he is never lost to me. So don't think that you're looking at reality now and then one day by Krishna's mercy, then Krishna will suddenly appear within that reality that you're seeing now. No. That what we see now is vikalpa, actually not the reality. And when our mind becomes akalpana, free from vikalpa, vikalpa rohita, then there is the direct experience that there always was, is, and will be nothing but Sri Krishna everywhere. This is what it means. That experience is what it means to be Janti Sarva Samshaya, all doubts cut. All doubts removed. So, Sri Shukadeva Goswami is speaking here about artha, the purposes. Now the first three purposes, dharma, artha and karma, practicing religiosity to go to heaven, calm, fulfillment of desires, artha, the attainment of wealth. These things are all activated by the avidya vritti of Maya, the ignorance potency. When the avidya potency is acting upon us, then we initiate these activities. We chase after these objectives in life, coming from the platform of ignorance, coming from the false idea of I am the subject and this is the object. I am this body and mind, the subject, and the world is my object, which was created within our consciousness by the avidya vritti of Maya, the ignorance potency of Maya. So all of these things, they're inferior. Just being religious, good person and earning wealth and so on and trying to go to heaven. All these are initiated from the platform of avidya, ignorance. But the fourth artha, purpose here, is not the purpose related to the human body and senses. It is related to the ultimate purpose of the Atma. How the Atma can utilize the human body and senses to become akalpana, free from doubt, free from imagination, free from filtering of reality, so we see the kind of chaos of independent objects bumping into each other in random ways called life. If someone does something to you, then we become angry. Oh, you did this to me. But that you are talking about, that is just your own karma coming back to you. And this me you're talking about is not even you. So the whole idea of you and me, this is all the kalpana. So when one becomes free from kalpana, then Swapu said to Nara Pisunichena. It's more humble than a blade of grass, giving respect to everyone, not demanding respect for himself. Only that person, Kirtanya Sadhari, can chant continuously, take complete shelter of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And come to the state of super-subjective consciousness. Not the consciousness of subject and object, but being the Shakshi, the witness of the material subject and object dichotomy. So, now, just as the first three arthas or objectives were facilitated by the avidya vritti of Maya, the ignorance potency of Maya, so similarly, the fourth objective, becoming free from all non-correlated thought constructs, from all projection and filtration of reality, to become free from that, that is activated by Swarup Shakti, Krishna's internal potency. So the implication here is Shukadeva Goswami is answering Parikshit Maharaj's question. How is it possible that the Vedas can describe God? He's answered it in this way. By Vyanjanvriti, indirectly, that, oh, don't you know? This mind and senses and prana and intelligence that you have, this God-given human form, is not only for dharma, artha and kama, economic development, religiosity and the fulfillment of worldly desires, but it's also for liberation, which is of two types, the impersonal liberation and the personal liberation. The personal liberation is affected, just as the three material objectives are affected by avidya-vritti, acting on the living being, so in the same way, the Swarup Shakti, the internal potency of the Lord, can be accepted by your mind, intelligence, senses and prana. In other words, this human body was designed by God to receive the function of Krishna's Swarup Shakti, his internal potency. The internal potency is Swapakash, that means self-manifesting. And here, another Vyanjanvriti, another implied meaning of the verse is this, that, let's say for example, if God had not given you ears, the sense of hearing, then although material sound exists, it would for you be indescribable, and it would be impossible for you to experience it even, right? The only reason the phenomena of sound is to be experienced by you and can be described by you is because God has given you an instrument which corresponds with that sense object. This is the Vyanjanvriti of the verse. That, so similarly, though Brahman, the Supreme Truth, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form, his abode with his associates, and his beautiful, eternal, sweet, loving pastimes, though they are all nirgun and beyond the senses. But the senses have been designed by God to accept this Swarup Shakti, by which all the paraphernalia of the spiritual world and the Supreme Lord can be directly experienced and then described also. So our human bodies and senses, our prana, intelligence, all have been made with dual functions. They can be invigorated by the avidya potency, the potency of ignorance, by which we can experience the three gunas of this world and things which are made of the three gunas. And the very same senses, mind and intelligence and prana are designed by God to receive the Swarup Shakti and to perceive the transcendental world and also speak words that can express and describe that transcendental world. So that is the answer to the question. So effectively, Shukadeva Goswami is saying that what to speak of, how can the Vedas describe the Supreme Truth? Even an ordinary human being, when he comes under the influence of Swarup Shakti, the internal potency, he can also describe. So that was mentioned in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Tattva vasago janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhatyavatapi namanyantasya jashankataniyat srivanti gayanti grinanti sadavaha. That those words spoken by a human being that describe the glories of the Supreme Lord's name, form, qualities and pastimes are so powerful that janataga viplavo, even if a sinful person will hear them, he'll become free from his sins and his life will be turned around. And so, the sadhus, They are very eager to hear those words, Srinvanti, Gayanti, to sing those words, to accept those words. So here in this way, by Vyanjamriti, by implication, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, hey, what to speak of the Vedas being able to describe the glories of the Lord, even an ordinary human being, if his senses become imbued with the Swarup Shakti, he's literally designed by God to be able to describe the name, form, qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This is the essential meaning here. So, now we come to 10:87:14. So now Shukadeva Goswami will describe how the Vedas glorify God. Before this world is manifest, that means during the period of the pralaya, the whole universe, all the universes are manifest for some time, and after some time, then they are destroyed. And the Paramatma, Kiradakashay Vishnu, enters into Gauradakashay Vishnu. Gauradakashay Vishnu enters into Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu enters into Lord Narayan. And he's unmanifest then. That's called Yoga Nidra. He's in sleep when even he is not manifesting. So then there's no material world at all. At that time, the Vedas approach Lord Narayan. And Lord Narayan is resting, and they want to inspire him to create the world. It's time now. So just as a king, in the morning, he's not woken up by an alarm clock. When a king is resting and it's time to wake up, then the bards, with their instruments, they come into his bedchamber and begin to sing his glories, and he wakes up to the sound of his own glories. So kings do this. It's an imitation of God. So Lord Narayan, when he's resting, then the Vedas come, and the Vedas personified, they offer prayers, and they glorify him. So this is called the Shruti Stuti. So in the first verse they say, Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribita Gunam Tamasiya Datmana Samavairura Samasta Bagaha Twamasitam Agajagadokasam Akila Shaktava Bodhakati Kwachita Jayatmana Chacharato Nuchare Nigamaha. Literally, this is the first thing that Lord Narayan hears in the morning, before he creates all the universes. What does it mean? Jaya Jaya means all glories, all glories. That indicates Nija, Vishesh Utkarsha, Aviskaratu. May you manifest your special glories, your most excellent glories. So Jai Jai, may you manifest your most excellent glories. Jaya 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 Jam. Jahi means defeat, conquer. Ajam, here Ajam means Maya, the material energy. Manifest your glories and defeat Maya. Why? Because when Sankirtan appears in this world, the glories of the Supreme Lord, then Maya is defeated. Jaya 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 Jam. Ajita. Oh Ajita. That means, it's a name for God. It means you who are unconquerable. You cannot be conquered. Now what is significant here is, there are many profound points. Srimad Bhagavatam is so beautiful. So the implication here is, first of all, that the Vedas are not a material literature composed by some person in ancient history. Why? Because the world there's no material world at the moment. So there are no material people, there are no material elements, there are no universes, there's nothing. Even the three Vishnus are not manifest. But the Vedas exist. So the Vedas are transcendental and eternal. They have two forms. They're called Devarup and Shabdarup. Devarup means the form of Devas like angelic beings, if you like, eternal spiritual angelic beings, that's their Deva Roop. And Shabda Roop is their form of sound. Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound. So here they're in their Deva Roops. And they're praying, "Oh Ajit." Now what is significance here is, first of all, that God has a name, and this name is spiritual and eternal, because nothing which is temporary and material is manifest yet. And the second fascinating point here is that God identifies with His name. It's just like if I call you, "Hey Anastasia, stand up." Okay, sit down. But then I just said this vibration, Anastasia, and then you didn't stand up. She stood up. Why? Because you identified with this name. So if God did not identify with His name and respond to it, then the Vedas would not be able to wake him up by saying, "Jaya Jaya Jaya Jam Ajita." Oh, Ajita, wake up. Please wake up. Understand? So now the names of God, they are, as proven here, eternal and transcendental, and they have the power to attract the attention of the Supreme Lord when they're vibrated. So you can find that in the history of Ajamil. There, Shukadeva Goswami says, "Sarvesham apigavatam idam neva suniskritam nama vyavaro Vishnu yatastad vishayamati." If a person has committed so many sins, whatever, stealing money, murdering people, arson, burning someone's house down, whatever it is, whatever terrible sins the person has done, they can all be destroyed, they can all be atoned for just by uttering the name of Vishnu once. Yatastad vishayamati. And when a person utters the name of God, even if his own mind is not absorbed in that name, and he's not thinking of God, even, but God is thinking of him. Yatastad vishayamati means God's mati, God's mind becomes absorbed in the person who calls his name. Because the name of Sri Krishna, because Krishna is indivisible, he's Akhanda, he's Advaya. So he's one, he's partless, he has no parts. So all of his characteristics are inseparable from him and have all of his qualities. So the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are non-different. His name is Swarup Bhut. It is a part of his Swarup. His name is Swarup Bhut. Just like Krishna's peacock feather, Krishna's ornaments. They're not separate from him, they're part of his Swarup. Your ornaments, maybe you bought them on eBay. I don't know. But Krishna didn't buy his ornaments on eBay. They're part of his Kaustubha money, his Bakarakunda. They're all parts of his divine Swarup. So his name is an aspect of his divine Swarup. It's inseparable from him. The question comes, how could an ordinary person utter a divine name? So this will gradually get to tomorrow or the next day. But here, Jaya 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 Jam Ajita, oh Ajita, please wake up and manifest your excellent glories. Dosha Grabita Gunam. Supreme Lord wakes up. Yes. You want me to get rid of Maya? Jaya Jam? But Maya does not only have avidya vritti, the ignorance potency that traps the living entities, but Maya also has vidya vritti. That is sattva guna, the mode of goodness that gives knowledge and which leads one gradually to liberation. So do you want me to dispel also the good qualities of Maya? The Vedas say, yes. Dosha grabita gunam. You are such a person that your divine existence accepts all the gun, the qualities of Maya, Even the good virtues of Maya to be dosh, false. Dosha garbita gunam. What does that mean? Mode of goodness is relatively good, but not absolutely good. Yeah? The mode of goodness makes us feel contented. But in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that Jnana Sangeta Badnati Sukha Sangena Chanaga. O sinless Arjuna, a person who is in the mode of goodness becomes conditioned by a sense of knowledge and a sense of happiness. So if someone is very sattvic in their life, but they're not a devotee, then they're actually bound by that sattva gun, thinking, oh, I'm wiser than other people, and I feel quite content with my life. And so they stay in Maya. So, Sattvat Sanjayate Jnanam. The knowledge comes from sattva gun also. The knowledge by which we can discriminate between the self and the body. And if one will get that knowledge, then they will aspire for liberation, but impersonal liberation. So the Vedas are saying, no, get rid of all of Maya, the whole lot, everything. Please. Get rid of the avidya, the passion and ignorance, and also sattva gun as well. Because there's no auspiciousness for the soul in nirvana, Brahma nirvana, in mukti, in personal liberation. He doesn't gain anything. He gets rid of the suffering of material existence, but he doesn't get any positive spiritual happiness or realization of you. So let it, just get rid of all of it. Tamasi adatmana samavirura samasta bhagaha. The Supreme Lord said to the Vedas, it's just waking up. My dear Vedas, but my opulences, my vibhutis are manifest within the material energy. You can see in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita. The opulences of Krishna. So do you want me to get rid of that manifestation of my opulences also? Krishna said, I am the taste in water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. Of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Of luminaries, I am the sun. And all the various things, spectacular things in the universe, they're all the manifestations of the Lord's vibhutis. So do you want me to get rid of those, all of those? The Vedas say, yes. Samavirura samasta bhagaha. All your glories, all your opulences, you hold within yourself. You are Bhagavan. You have Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Sasastraya. Jnana, Vairagasya, Chaiva, Asanam, Bhagana, Itimrita. You have all opulence, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, all detachment. Everything you have in yourself, it's in your swarup. You don't need this petty, insignificant material opulences. They're nothing. You don't need that. You can never be defeated by Maya yourself. It is very insignificant compared to you. Agajagadu akila shaktya vabodakati. Okasam means of the embodied. And they can be called aga, non-moving, like trees, mountains and so on. And jagat, moving. So all moving living entities and non-moving living entities. Akila Shakta Vabodakate. Please awaken all the Shaktis of the living beings. That means that now we can see the world around us. But the only reason that anyone can move, the only reason that anyone can hear, walk, talk, understand or do anything is because the Supreme Lord's Shakti is empowering them. He's awakened His Shaktis everywhere. There's nothing but the potency of the Lord everywhere. Kvachijajayatmana chacharatu nuchare nigamaha. Now the Vedas are saying, Kvachit ajayatmana. We have experienced that kvachit sometimes you play with aja, maya, the mature energy, atmana, and you always play with your spiritual potency. In other words, Krishna's pastimes are going on in the spiritual sky all the time, and sometimes the mature universes are manifest, and sometimes not. So kvachita jayatmana chacharato nuchare nigamaha, and we ourselves, in our two forms, as Devarup and Shabdarup, experience this. In other words, the Vedas exist eternally in the spiritual sky, and they experience the pastimes of Bhagavan there, and the Vedas appear in this world. They enter in the form of Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, and also experience the activities of the Lord in this world. So now the question comes, how do the Vedas, or the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound, appear in this world? So we want to look at a few verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, I just want to say in principle that, as it was mentioned before, the very highest purpose of this human body is to facilitate the descent of Swarup Shakti into our prana, our senses, our mind and intelligence, so that everything that we do can be an act of devotion. And thereby we can gradually experience the self-revelatory nature of Swarup Shakti, Krishna's internal potency, by which we can describe, sing, think of all that which is beyond this material world. So how does that Swarup Shakti appear? It appears in the form of Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound. So, generally when we think of sound, we just think of what we can hear. But Shabda Brahma has 4 levels. The first level of Shabda Brahma is called Para, and it is a movement of prana. This first movement of prana is on the level of prana, and it takes place in the Mooladhara chakra. Then this prana moves up to the Manipurak chakra, and now it manifests in the manas, in the mind. In that level it is called Pasyanti. So Para, Pasyanti, then comes to the Anahata chakra, and is manifest on the level of Buddhi. And that is called Madhyama in the Anahata chakra. So then it comes to the Vishuddhi chakra, and from the Vishuddhi chakra, the sound that we can hear is produced, and that is called Vaikari. So there are 4 levels of sound: Para, Pasyanti, Madhyama and Vaikari. This is Shabda Brahma. So when this transcendental sound, the Shabda Brahma, is transmitted from Sri Guru, who has received it. First, Krishna gave the Shabda Brahma to Lord Brahma, who gave to Narad, to Vyasadeva, to Madhvacharya, and it's coming down in parampara. And it comes to Sri Guru. Then the first anga of bhakti is Sravanam, hearing. So when the disciple listens to the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound coming from Sri Guru, in a spirit of surrender, then that Shabda Brahma is transferred to the disciple. And when the disciple begins to chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, and repeat the words and instructions of his Guru, then that aprakrita prana, supernatural, spiritual potency awakens in the form of Para, Pasyanti, Madhyama, and then Vaikari. And as it passes through the levels of the mind and intelligence, the intelligence is inspired to understand Krishna. And as it passes through the mind, then the mind transforms to give the vision of Sri Krishna. And then it comes out in the form of kirtan. So, in this way, the human body was designed to experience God directly. But the experience comes through the transmission of Shabda Brahma. We're just today laying a foundation to understand when we speak about Nam Tattva, what it really is. Okay. Now someone may say, oh, well, this all sounds interesting, but is it written anywhere in the Shastra? I haven't seen this. Yeah? So we just want to give some praman from Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first praman we give 11th canto, 12th chapter, verse 17. Saisha jivo vivara prasuti pranena goshena goham pravista mayomayam shuksham apeta rupam matra saravana itista vistaha. Here, Saisha jivo vivara prasuti, the Supreme Lord Himself, in the form of Shabda Brahma, enters into the living entity, vivara prasuti, that means Mula Agar Chakra. How? Pranena Goshena, as Gosh means sound, Pranena in the form of a movement of prana. Guham Pravistaha, Manomayam, then it comes up to the level of the mind. Shukshma Mapaitya Rupam, and the intelligence, Matra Saravana, and then manifests as Matra, Swara and Varna. That means Swara, Varna, letters, matra, syllables, and so on. Then, in the next verse, then 11th canto, chapter 21, verse 36. Shabda Brahma Sudurbodham Parindriya Manomayam Ananta Param Gambiram Durvikyayam Samudravat. Shabda Brahma Sudurbodham is very difficult to understand. Sudurbodha. Pranendriya Manomayam. It manifests on the level of pran, mind, indriya, etc. Ananta Param Gambiram. It is unlimited and profound. Durvigyam Samudravat. It is very difficult to perceive, and it is vast like an ocean. Rig Veda 1:164:22. Chatvari Vakparanit Padam Tani Vido Brahmanan Ye Manishina. Wise men know that sound has 4 aspects. Men speak in the 4th form, but there are 3 other forms hidden within, which are not revealed. Then 11:21:37 Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahopa Brahmitam Bhumna Brahmanananta Shaktina Bhuteshu Gosharupena Visheshu Naiva Lakshate. This is very interesting. The Supreme Lord said that I have established the Shabda Brahma in the heart of everyone. Mayopa Brahmita Bhumna Brahmanananta Shaktina Go Bhuteshu Gosharupena. Here is a description of Shabda Brahma, which is also known in its unmanifest state as Nada Brahma. Nada Brahma. Nad means Shabda, sound. So here in this verse, 11:21:37, Mayopa Brahmitam Bhumna, I have established Bhuteshu, in all living entities, Gosharupena, in the form of sound. This Shabda Brahma. Visheshu Naiva Lakshate. That means it is very fine, just like the fiber of a lotus. Have you ever seen the broken stem of a lotus flower? When we make our festival in Astrakhan every year, we go by boat and have kirtan in their famous lotus fields there. Very beautiful. So then the devotees, sometimes the boats break the stems of the lotus. Don't go there and break a lotus. It's vandalizing nature. So, but if you see a broken stem, you can pick it up. And when you separate it like this, then very fine fibers are there. If you just blow, they will break. Very, very fine. So here, Krishna is saying, this Nada Brahma is there like a fine fiber. And it rises up the Shushumna Nadi, through the chakras. But it's very, very difficult to perceive. In fact, a person whose senses are not controlled cannot perceive it at all. So, 12.637. Just in case some of you may be listening and have a doubt, where is this in Srimad Bhagavatam? I just showed it's in many, many places. May have missed it. 12.637. Sutta Uvacha. Samahitat mano brahman brahmana paramestina rijakasha nabunnado vitirodat vibhavyate. Here in the 12th canto, Sutta Goswami is explaining how the Vedas manifest in this world. And our Jiva Goswami said the purpose of this is to teach us Nam Tattva, how the holy name manifests in this world. So Sutta Goswami is saying, O Brahman, first the subtle vibration of sound, Nada Brahma, Vridyakasha Bunnado, appeared from the sky of the heart of Lord Brahma, whose mind was fixed in Samahi Tatmano Brahman, in perfect realization. In other words, his chitta was not oscillating, it was not disturbed by desires and attachments. He had become internally completely still, and he had withdrawn his senses from the outer world. Vritti rodat vibhavyate. This is very significant. It means one can perceive this subtle vibration when he stops the functioning of the ears, the external functioning of the ears. In other words, our physical sense of hearing is going out. What is that? I want to hear some hip-hop music, whatever. The ears, they're attracted, they want some mundane sound, which is actually a manifestation of tamagun. And it's becoming more and more tamasic by the day. The sound vibrations are becoming more and more tamasic. But when the chitta is brought into perfect balance, then the senses are withdrawn from external physical sound, and then from within one can hear a sound. So that is called the antaspot, the inner bursting. Antaspot, the inner bursting of sound. When the external ears are being withdrawn and the consciousness is, the chitta is clean. Sutta Goswami continues, and you can notice here that he uses the phrase nad. The sound is called nad. Now, in the next verse, he said, 12.638, Yadupasanaya Brahman, Yogi no malam atmana dravikya kriyarakyam dutva yanta punabhavan. By the worship of this subtle form, this subtle sound form of the Vedas, the mystic sages cleanse their hearts of all contamination caused by impurity of substance, the external sense objects, activity, the senses, and dua, the material ego. And thus they attain freedom from repeated birth and death. So here is the idea that the yogis, the sages, sit in meditation. They withdraw their senses from the external world. And then they're uttering the syllable, Om. But gradually they begin to experience that they are not uttering the syllable, but the nad from within their hearts is appearing. There's a spurti from within. So now we come to the next verse. 12.639. Tato bhutri vridam karo yovyakta prabhava swarat yat talingam bhagavato brahmana paramatmanaha. Nad Brahma is sound in its avyakta, unmanifest form, in its featureless form. When it begins to manifest, it takes on characteristics. And the characteristics it takes on are three. The nad becomes It takes on these three. So Tatoba Tripradam Karo, from nad, the unmanifest sound that was there always, but we couldn't hear it because our senses were overwhelmed and preoccupied with external objects, and our chitta was in a state of disorder. But when the chitta becomes steady, the senses are withdrawn from the external world, then the nad begins to manifest, and it manifests some characteristics now, and that is the Omkar, A-U-M. Yovyakta Prabhava Swarat. This Omkar is Swarat. Swarat means independent. In other words, this Omkar is self-revealing. In other words, you may think that when you begin to chant that I am chanting, but one has to give up that ego. And gradually by giving up offense to the holy name, you realize, I am not chanting, but Nam Prabhu by his own sweet will is personally, automatically arising in the purified heart. Yattalingam Bhagavato Brahmana Paramatmana. This vibration indicates Brahman. In other words, it will reveal Brahman, then Paramatma, and then Bhagavan. So then next verse, 12.640. Shrinoti ya imam spotam shukta srote cha shunyadrik yena bhagavajate yasya vyakta akasha atmana. It's not here now, it's actually just need to come back.
Oh, it's there. Okay.
Shrinoti ya imam spotam shukta srote cha shunyadrik. This is a very beautiful verse. Srinoti means he hears. Who hears? Not you. Here Srinoti means the Lord in the heart. Srinoti aimam srotam, supta srote. Supta srotre means when our sense of hearing is dissolved. Just like when you're awake, your senses are functioning. When you go into a state of dreaming, your senses also subtly function because you also have perceptions in your dream. But when you go into deep sleep, then the senses are dissolved. That's called supta srotre, the state of dissolved senses. So at that time, Shunyadrik, the Supreme Lord, who can perceive without any material senses, he hears. In other words, when our chitta is steady and our senses are withdrawn, this Nada Brahma manifests, and the Lord in our heart hears it. Lord has two forms. Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamobe Dutyatanu. Krishna said, I have two forms, my own form and my form is Shabda Brahma. Para Brahma, Shabda Brahma. So, here, when the heart is cleansed, that sound begins to manifest and the Lord in the heart hears it, not you. So Vishwanath Thakur in his commentary said, well, what does that mean? It means this. If you're asleep at night and you're in deep sleep, and your alarm clock begins to ring, there's no way you can hear it, because in deep sleep your senses are dissolved. Or if someone calls your name while you're sleeping, you can't hear it because the senses are dissolved. But still you wake up. Why? Because Paramatma, God in your heart, hears it, and then he wakes you up. And that's how we come out of the stable to deep sleep into waking, due to Paramatma. Krishna said, Sarvasya chaham samanisto matak smiti jnanam aponam cha. I am in the heart of everyone. And I give remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness means I make you go into deep sleep. But then I'm the one who wakes you up. Smriti, I give you memory and bring you back to the world. So, here, it is the Lord in the heart who hears that sound, and then He wakes up the soul, and the soul begins to hear it. So, the experience of the divine sound is only by kripa, it's by grace. So, it is not that by doing sadhana, it's true. By your part, you can gradually practice having very steady mind and withdraw the senses from the external thing. But it will not be enough. On top of that is required the kripa, the mercy of the Lord, who allows us to hear that divine sound. Therefore, all the Shastras say, Yasya deve pravakti yatha deve tatha garo tasyaiti katitha yata prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those who, as they are devoted to the service of God, they are devoted to the service of their Guru. All the truths of the Vedas are revealed. So, if a person will serve their spiritual master and please their spiritual master, then Krishna himself becomes overjoyed, and he, in the heart, awakens us to the manifestation of his form of Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound. That transcendental sound is pran, sutra, like a thread, and completely takes over all the functions of our mind, intelligence, and all of our senses. And in this way, all the divine paraphernalia, nirgun, aprakritavastu, Krishna's qualities, pastimes, associates, all revealed within. Therefore, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Kama Krodha Dasamaya Taralatikai Brahmete Brahmiti Yari Sadhu Vaidya Pai Taramantra Upades Pisachi Chalai Krishna Bhakti Pai Tabe Krishna Nikatyai. The meaning is, in this world, Kama Krodha Dasarvaya, we become a servant. We're already servants. Everyone is a servant. But in this world, we become the servant of lust, the servant of anger. Always running around here and there, trying to defeat our opponents and attain our sense objects. So the soul becomes the servant of Kam and Krodha. But as the soul is wandering through this world, as the servant of Kam and Krodha, Chailatikai, he eats a lot of beatings from the stick of Maya. Maya is hitting him again and again. So it's a terrible situation. But Brahmeti Brahmeti Yari Sadhu Vaidya Pai, as he's wandering, he may get the chance to meet a sadhu. Here the sadhu is called Vaidya. Vaidya means a doctor, and here especially it means a kind of exorcist. Because the Maya is like a witch, like a ghost, haunting that soul. The soul is in this state, I need this, I need this. He's in anxiety, he's suffering so much. But actually he's a transcendental part of God. And he's haunted. He's in a state of madness. So Taramantra Upades Pichatsi Pralay. Just like if a person is haunted by a ghost, then Vaidya, the doctor, the exorcist can come and he can chant mantras, and then that ghost is exorcised and goes away. Then the person comes back to reality and they're happy. So in the same way, Taramantra Upadesh, when a soul meets Sadguru and receives the Shabda Brahma, the transcendental sound of mantra, then this is the mantra by which the witch of illusion is chased away, gone completely. Then Krishna Bhakti Pai, he attains devotion to Krishna, Tabe Krishna Nikat Jai. And he, that soul, Nikat means close, he goes to Krishna, close by. Like now, you're sitting close to me. So this is Guru Tattva and Nam Tattva. Where there is a bona fide Guru, he gives Nam and Mantra. This Nam and Mantra is powerful. It destroys the Kalpana, all the non-correlated thought constructs coming from Maya, and one awakens to reality. He becomes situated in spontaneous devotion to Krishna. Krishna Nikatyai, and the soul goes, and as you are sitting with me now, then you can be with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah? This is the process. So, Mat Kripa Bina Kaun Kama Bhakti Nai. Krishna Bhakti Duri Raga Sansar Nahikshay. Without the mercy of Mahata Sadhu, then nothing we will do will actually be bhakti. Understand? In a general sense, and for encouragement. We say, oh, let's go chant and hear. But what is actually hearing and chanting? Once Srila Prabhupada was in New York in the early days, 26 Second Avenue, and he was giving class to a room of very new devotees just learning about taking their first steps in Krishna consciousness. And at that time, one drunken, homeless person stumbled in from the street with a toilet roll in his hand. And he stumbled into the room, and he went up to the altar, and he gave the toilet roll. And then stumbled out again. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is bhakti. What you have, you give it to Krishna. Yeah. So it's encouragement. It's encouragement. It's good. But, archa eva hare puja yasarayate nacha tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sa bhakta prakrita smitaha. There are 3 levels of devotees. The prakrita bhakta, Kanishta, neophyte, materialistic devotee, then the madhyam, Bhagavat, and then the Uttam Bhagavat. So this is the definition of the Kanishta. So it said that he has faith in Archan, worshipping the deity, and in his guru, but he does not know how to properly associate with other devotees and living beings in general, how to interact with them appropriately. Such a person is a Prakrita Bhakta, a materialistic devotee. So Srila Prabhupada's translation is very interesting. He translates it in this way. So he's giving the Vyanjan Vritti, the implied meaning, not there exactly in the words, but implied by words. Srila Prabhupada's translation is so beautiful. It's such insight. He says, the materialistic devotee does not make a very careful study of the scripture under the guidance of Vaishnavas to come to a correct understanding of the actual standard of devotional service. And therefore, he has faith in serving the deity, and he has faith in Guru, but he doesn't know how to. So Srila Prabhupada prefaces his translation in this way. So it's very profound, because he has a realization. So when Srila Jiva Goswami Pada in Bhakti Sandarbha, he says that when we engage just in hearing and chanting and remembering according to the guidance, what the scripture says, now you should do this, now you should do that, etc., that this is actually called Archan. It's Archan. So in the morning, you have to kind of wake up the deities. Touch their lotus feet, wake them by mantra. Go, Plananda. And wake up Radha Krishna. Jahi, Mahaprabhu, wake up Mahaprabhu, wake up Gurudev. So by all these mantras, then we have to, there are prayers. And so we are, in one sense, chanting and remembering also. Yes, but this is actually not Shravan, Kirtanam, Smaranam. It is all Archan. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's a verse, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given it in the very first chapter of Bhajan Rahasya. Janma Jaina Janma Shatha Purvam Vasudeva Samarchitaha Tanmuke Harinamani Tattva Tistati Bharata. It means the holy name is situated on the tongue of a person who has perfectly performed archan worship of Krishna for 100 lifetimes. Okay? So, I'm just trying to stimulate you to think deeply of what it means to chant the holy name. Actual Sankirtan. Because in our junior state, when the mind is unsteady, when the senses have a thirst for the external objects, then even our japa, chanting of Hare Krishna and Kirtan and so on, is really in the category of archan. It's like a pre-bhakti stage where we're gradually trying to develop, by association, develop some sobriety from the intoxication of worldly ego, and giving up the worldly ego, find our true self and the essence of that surrender to Guru and Krishna. So as long as the ahankar, the ego, is present, and we're not in shakshitva, seeing from the vantage point of the soul, as long as we're seeing from the vantage point of our ego, and we're engaged in the activities of bhakti, then this is not actual bhakti. This is not hearing and chanting, but it's a first stage. We're engaging in some anga of archan. We're trying to start the path of archan. Gradually, by following the path of archan, the chitta becomes free from vikshep, distractions, and one overcomes kadarya shil, one overcomes bad character and impious activities gradually, and then when the chitta becomes good, steady, and the senses are withdrawn from the world, then the Naam can begin to appear. So remember this. I'll be here in the morning. We'll have Mangalartik, and then we'll sit and chant japa with everyone. Remember what we're discussing this evening. This is not an ordinary thing. We're not just taking the mala, pulling the rope and mumbling and thinking about whatever, going shopping. No, this is a very serious thing. We are disconnecting fully, shukta srotre, all the senses dead to the world, like in deep sleep. Switch them all off. And fully invest your consciousness in praying to Sri Krishna, that in the form of Shabda Brahma, he will come and occupy, to hijack, to take over our prana, to take over our mind, intelligence and everything, and manifest from our lips. This is the meaning of Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. Vijayate means glorious. So if something is victorious, then something should be defeated. All of our senses, all of our prana, our mind, every thought must be defeated, and we should become entirely possessed by Nam Prabhu, Krishna in his form of Shabda Brahma, fully surrendered to him. Then it can be said that we are chanting japa. So be ready tomorrow morning to really be immersed. Now, what I've said up to this point is in relation to Vaidhi Bhakti. If one will have a guru in Vaidhi Bhakti and please him, Krishna will be pleased, and then by his own sweet will, Swarat, independently, he is happy to manifest in the heart of the devotee. It's not possible by any means. You can't just cry, oh Krishna, please, appear in the form of the holy name. Go on, do it. Just once. Doesn't work like that. He's not listening. Sadanga Shanagati Hoile Jaha Taha Pratana Shuni Srinanda Kumar, the son of Nanda Maharaj. The son of Nanda Maharaj only hears the prayers of that person who is surrendered to his guru. So first of all, practically to be fully dedicated by body, mind and words in the service of the spiritual master, and then try to chant with the full attention and surrender, and Krishna will be pleased to admit us. That realm, you cannot trespass, you cannot force your way in. It is by invitation only. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nagati kutopi. It's very easy to say by the mercy of Guru one gets the mercy of Krishna. But only one who has been invited onto the transcendental plane by his Guru really understands what it means. Now, if one is fortunate to have a Guru in Raga Marg, in Raga Nuga Bhakti, then this is another situation. In Vaidhi Bhakti, Guru may give mantra and say, do this, and you follow these rules and regulations under his guidance, as you're told. And you can realize. But Aishwarya Ganati Sab Jagasant Misrit, Aishwarya Shitil Prem Nahi Mor Preet, Sakali Jagati Mori Kori Vidhi Bhakti Brajabhav Vaiti Nahi Shakti. Many people in the world are following the path of Vaidhi Bhakti rules and regulations, but this does not have the power to awaken the bhav of Braja, the mood of Braja. So Vishram Bena Guru Seva, one has to serve Gurudev in such an intimate mood, with so much mamata, possessiveness, and with natural affection, not some forced relationship. I read in the Shastra that I have to love my Guru, so now I will try to do it. Like coloring by numbers. It's not possible. Rather, by serving in a very humble mood and praying, the 6 exchanges of love can take place, by which there is a genuine affection. That's why Rupa Goswami said, Dadati pratikrinati guimaki prati bhute bhojatai chaga sarvida pratilakshanam. Giving some gift and receiving something in return, some prasadi, used item. Revealing the heart in confidence and hearing something confidential. Giving Mahaprasad and taking remnants. These are the 6 exchanges of love. And we cannot take them. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Chaya bega domi, Chaya dosha shodhi, Chaya guna deho dasi. Chaya satsanga deho he amari bhosechi sangerayasi. Oh Vaishnava Thakur, Chaya, help me control my 6 urges. Chaya, those purify me of my 6 faults. Atyahara pirat, overeating, over-endeavoring for mundane things, talking mundane talk, all these things. And Chaya Satsang, give me the 6 types of holy association. That means 6 exchanges of love. Chaya Satsanga Deho Yamari, please give them to me. I have sat here. Bosechi Sangira Ase, I am sitting here begging for your association. It means that we cannot take association. Only we can pray that the pure Vaishnava will very mercifully give their association. Understand? And when that relationship becomes very, very thick, very close, then there is an overflowing from the heart, the moods of Raganuga Bhakti. If the devotee only sees, oh, my Gurudev is great, he's in every atom in the universe, he's faster than the train and can fly in the sky. One has the opulent, all of the things they're true. Pure devotee has all mystic powers. It's true. Well, they may not be manifest, but pure devotee has all powers. It's true. But this will not be enough to have the closeness of heart to enter into the mysteries of Raganuga Bhakti. Just like my Gurudev used to give the example. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's the Shiksha Guru of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. Obviously they have a very natural relationship. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so worried. He thought, what will I do with this boy? I got him a job as the tutor for the king of Kasim Bazaar, and he preached to the prince so much. Now the prince is wearing tilak, shaving his head, has a tilak and sikar. And now the queen is afraid that her son is going to take sannyas. And so she had him fired from the job. So I tried to find him some engagement somewhere in the world, but it seems he doesn't fit in anyway. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur told his son, Bimala Prasad, look, I'll give you some land in Mayapur and a hut, you just sit there and chant and do your bhajan there. And to try to develop Mayapur, the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. So how? There's such a very close, natural, loving relationship. And he's worried. Oh, what will he do? Gurudev gave the example also of his guru, Srila Bhaktipragyan Kesha Maharaj. When they were building Devananda Gaudiya Math, my Gurudev was carrying the bricks on his head, for they were being brought on boat. So from the Ganges, he was piling up the bricks on his head and carrying them all the way from the Ganges to Devananda Gaudiya Math in Koladweep. And they were building. So even though my Gurudev and his godbrothers like Srila Vaman Maharaj and Srila Trivikram Maharaj, they were so qualified, out of intense affection, then Guru thinks, oh, he's not so qualified. What will happen, I don't know. Due to affection. Like Mother Yashoda, she was, oh my boy, he's not eating enough. He's so, I can see he's so hungry, his belly is on his back almost touching his back. Oh, Lala, take some more makan. Understand? This is swabhavik prem, natural love. So one has to have this swabhavik sneha for Gurudev. Guru Yusni Dasya Sasya Guru Vo Goyama Piyata. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shonik Rishi said, O Sutta Goswami, because you are such an affectionate disciple, therefore it is sure that your Gurudev has revealed all transcendental secrets to you. So my Gurudev and Srila Trivikram and Srila Vaman, they were not sannyasis yet, but they were building the mats, they were young men. And Param Gurudev said, don't use cement. Just use mud. Don't use cement, just use mud. Because after I am gone, I don't know what will happen with you, how you keep this whole thing together. So at least if you use mud instead of cement afterwards, you can sell the bricks and get something. If it doesn't work out, this temple. They were very qualified. But being blinded by affection and love, he is feeling in this way towards the disciple. So, relationship should be like this. Very, very beautiful. One should serve Gurudev in such a way that he's worried about us. What is he wearing? What will he eat? How is his health? We don't want to worry Gurudev. But you want to serve in such a way that the heart of Gurudev becomes captured. That Guru does not even think this is my disciple. Guru thinks, he is my Pran. He's my life. This kind of seva, Vishvambhaina Guru seva, not official seva. Haribol, I have officially done my duties for today, for Gurudev. Now I'll do something else. No, not official relationship. Actual, natural affection. I experienced in my life. So with my Gurudev. When I was staying in the mutt, I was only eating once a day. Srila Gurudev came to me, and I had also never wore a kurta. So I had a chadar on. And he came and he put his hand underneath my chadar and grabbed me by the skin of the ribs and tried to pull. There was nothing to pull. He said, "What are you doing?" 2 times every day. You must eat 2 times every day. And also, wear a shirt also. One time, I was in Navadvip and giving my Gurudev a massage, oil massage before his bath. So he was lying there, covered in oil in Nidamsha, and always he's reciting astakams. Rupa Goswami's Lalita Astakam, the Radhika Astakam, Yamuna Astakam. She's fully absorbed. So on that day, one rich person came to the mutt and was distributing dhotis to all the brahmacharis in the mutt. So there's so many Bengali brahmacharis there, and he was giving them a dhoti. But I went there, I also needed a dhoti, but he didn't give to me. Because I'm a Westerner, and everyone knows, in India, everyone knows that every Westerner is a millionaire. So he's giving to the Indian brahmacharis, but to Western, he's not giving to a Western. So I was massaging Gurudev, and it came in Gurudev's heart. Prabodha is Gurudev. Did he give you a dhoti? I said, no, Gurudev, because I'm from the West. Gurudev said, what? Then he got up, covered in oil, just in a gamsha, on the 2nd floor of Devanand Gauravat, you know where the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Brahman Maharaj is, and came outside, down the stairs, across the mat, where the temple room is, and everything's outside, right? To the place where this wealthy person was. Brought me with him, by the hand, and said, give him a dhoti. So then Gurudev went back and now finished his message. I cannot take association, but Gurudev can give. The exchanges of love. Once I became very sick I had typhoid and malaria at the same time. So I was just lying down on my deathbed. We were on parikrama, so they rented a room for me. It was not in the mat because we were on the parikrama going here and there. They rented a quiet room, and I'm lying face down, 105 degrees temperature, hallucinating, almost dying. But Gurudev's giving class every morning. So I ask someone to record the class. As soon as the class is over, they give the recording to me. I can press play. And I'm lying face down and hearing the class and making notes. Because this is my deity. The words coming from the lips of Gurudev. This is the most worshipful object. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Kurigaikya. On my face and listening and trying to write notes. After some time, my door swings open. What are you doing? Take the pen off him at once. Gurudev has come from the mat. I don't know how he found me. I was in some dharmashala. somewhere, came to the room, stopped him. You have to rest sometimes. After a little time, some devotee was saying, oh, he's ill because someone is doing tantra. Doing some tantra. So one morning, Gurudev comes, put me in a small car, and we drove to Yavat. You know, Jutila and Kutila Abhimanyu's house. Radharani, when she was married, she moved there. It's a sasral, in-law's house. It's where Radharani is, where she has to return at the end of pastimes every night, and where she has to escape from in the evening time to meet with Krishna. Vrishabhanupura janama loibo javata viva habe. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, oh, when will I take birth in Vrishabhanupur, the village of Vrishabhanu Maharaj? And when I reach the adolescence, before adolescence, then my marriage will be arranged and I have to move and go and live in Yavat. And Radhika will also go there and other Sakhis. So Gurudev took me there, and because in the temple there's one pujari who knows Tantra and everything, Gurudev brought me to him and told the priest, oh, you do some anti-tantra tantra. So then he came with all his mantras, tantras and peacock feathers and everything. And did the whole thing. Gurudev said, okay, and then brought me back to the Lord. So, Jaya Satsanga Deva Yama Osachi Sangha, oh Gurudev, please, give me your association. 6 exchanges of love. Then, when the heart of the Guru and the disciple are situated in a spontaneous affection, then all the very fine and subtle bhavs, they overflow. My Gurudev gave a beautiful example. You know that in the evening time, like just about now, see, Krishna has decorated himself so beautifully. And he went into the forest to one kunja. And he's waiting with great anticipation for Radharani to arrive. Radhika is at home. She wants to meet with Krishna, but she's upset with him. because he sometimes does things which are displeasing to her. One Saki has come and saying, "Oh Radhika, dear Samir Jamunati, on the bank of your beloved Jamuna, a very gentle breeze is blowing, carrying the fragrance of the lotus flowers. And Beli, Chumeli, Jui, Madhavi, Malati, Malsri, all the flowers are blossoming. And there in the Kunj, Sri Krishna is decorated beautifully with sandalwood paste and a beautiful banamala garland of flowers reaching down to his feet. And he's waiting for you. He's decorating the kunj. He's decorating the bed with flowers. Sometimes he hears a bird in the trees outside who rustles the leaves. And when he hears that sound, he thinks you're coming. And he looks up. And he's looking around with eyes like a startled deer. Is she coming or not? Then he realizes, oh, she's not coming. That gives me a few more minutes to finish my preparations. And he goes back inside and continues decorating with flowers, ready to receive you. As Radharani is hearing this. Because Sabda Brahma, the description of Krishna and Krishna himself is not different. She's seeing it in her heart. And seeing the eagerness on Krishna's face, she cannot tolerate that he's feeling separation from her. So Radhika decides, yes, let's get ready. At that time, Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, her maidservants, quickly prepare her. So first, to sneak out of the house, they'll have to bind a cloth around her ankle bells, otherwise the ankle bells may ring as she's leaving and her mother-in-law will wake up and stop her from going. It's a full moon night. Sashakabita Visari Netra Bringan Chalabhyam Dishi Dishi Bayenod Gornitabjam Janoyam Kuvalaya Delakosyani Lakriptani Abhyam Kilkalaniyam Devitabhyam Janoyam. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he's chanting Harinam and weeping. Alas, alas, when will that day come that I will be Rati Manjari? And Radhika will order me, oh, let's prepare. I'm going. It's a full moon night. So Radhika will have to be dressed in white. So when she's going through the forest, if anyone sees her, they'll just think it was a moonbeam. So her hair, which is dark black, should be braided with so many rows of white jasmine flowers. Only white jewels, pearls and diamonds. And white cloth. Decorate Radhika like this. And then sneak out from the house. Sasakabita Visari Nekta Bringan Chalabhyam Dishi Dishya Baying Gornitabhyam. And Radhika comes out from her mother-in-law's home, Sasra, in Javat. Brinda Devi is so intelligent that there are trees. There's some gap and then there's some trees, the forest, around the house. And there are flowers in Vrindavan forest which are so astonishing. They glow in the dark. Beautiful flowers of so many colors that glow in the dark, and birds also with fluorescent markings and feathers. But Brinda Devi has planted all of those flowers the other side of the trees. So as Radhika goes through the open courtyard, out from the house and to the forest, they don't illuminate her path. And then Radhika disappears into the forest. Sometimes there are some trees, and sometimes there's a gap of open land, and then some trees again. So Radhika is moving from into the shadows and then waiting. And then again, quickly moving through the open land and again into the shadows on her way to meet Sasakabita Abhisari. Abhisar means the rendezvous, the journey, the lover's journey, to meet Krishna at the time of Shashaka Brit. Shashaka Brit is a name for the moon, because on the moon there's a sign, a shape like a rabbit. So this is called Samuchchai Alankar, when nature is reflecting what's happening here in the forest of Vrindavan. Just as a rabbit has appeared on the moon, Radhika herself is like a rabbit. You know, a rabbit is very scared and timid, and eyes are looking here and there. And white, Radhika is very soft and white. And just as a rabbit stays in one place, then quickly goes hop, 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 and then stops again. Hop, 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 and stops again. So Radhika is in the shadow of the trees. Then she asks, Rati Manjari, can I go? Rati Manjari goes ahead, looking here and there. And then Radhika quickly goes and then stops again. In this way, Radhika's making her way through the forest. Bayodverna means she has fear. To meet with Krishna, she's not. If a lion will jump out, she'll just walk past, no problem, no fear. Lions, tigers, deadly snakes, her mind is fixed on Krishna. But what she's afraid of is Jatila, Kutila, Abhimanyu. Oh, what is that? No fear. Krishna can be afraid of her, but not Radhika. She looks and says, oh, what is that? Rati Manjari runs ahead and looks, oh, it's just a tree stump. It was just a tree stump with some broken branches. It wasn't Jatila. Hey, where are you going? Huh? If a lion will roar, Radhika's not scared. But if a crow will go, then she will, oh, it sounds like Jatila. That will scare her. So she's making her way through the forest and she's looking here and there. Kuvalaya della kosani kliptani yabhyam. The Kuvalaya is a night blooming flower. And when the light blooming flower, the Kuvalaya, is touched by the rays of the moon, then it opens. So as Radharani is going, even in those places where the moonshine doesn't reach, as she passes, because herself, she's dressed in white and shining. So the rays of Radhika touch and the Kuvalaya flowers are opening. And for Radhika, it seems that the whole forest is filled with Kuvalaya flowers. Why? Because they're blue like Krishna. And because she's so eager to see Krishna, she's looking and everywhere seems to be full of blue Kuvalaya flowers. That means it seems like Krishna is appearing everywhere to her. Kimukila kalaniya devi tabyam jano. Oh Radhika, when will I lead you through the forest in this way? Devi. Here Radhika is called Devi. Devi kohi jotamana parama sundari kimva Krishna puja krida bosatina gai. The definition of Devi is param sundari, supremely beautiful, and jotamana, radiant, because that's the nature of Mahabhav. Anuraga sasamvedya dasam prapa prakashita. All 8 sattvic bhavs manifest in the body at once, and the body becomes completely effulgent and shining, more than ever before when Mahabhav appears. So Radhika is Devi. Her effulgence is spreading, Yavadashray Vritti. The influence of her love is spreading everywhere, because she's in the state of Mahabhav. So when will that day come? When I will take you through the forest. So here in this situation, though Radhika is like the guru of all the Sakhis. Haripadanaka Koti Pristaparayanta Simha Tatamat Kalyantim Pranakotera Vistam Pravadita Marirakshi Diksha Vaidagya Diksha Gurumati Guru Kirtim Radhika Marchayami. Rupa Goswami said, Radhika is like the Diksha Guru of all the beautiful lotus-eyed gopis of Vrindavan. So they take shelter of her. But in this situation, Radhika is taking shelter of her Manjari. Oh, is it safe? Can I go yet? Yes, no, come. Okay, quickly, Radhika. Like this. What's that over there? So who is the shelter of all the gopis has taken shelter of her Sakhi. So in the same way, the disciple has to serve Gurudev. that apparently, though Guru is the shelter of the disciple, but the disciple becomes the shelter of Guru. That Guru, he doesn't need, but apparently he needs. Just like Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, when he was on Parikrama at Paramatala in the Navadvip town, then the Smarta Brahmanas, Sahajas and others, they attacked the Parikrama party and they tried to kill him. So he's the pure Vaishnava. Just by his mystic power they could all just be evaporated. Or Krishna will send his chakra like to Durvasa Muni and finish them. But what happened? No. Our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, that time Vinod Brahmachari, took his Guru by the hand and pulled him into a house, locked the door behind it, and took his Guru's cloth off and put his Guru's sannyas vesh on and gave him his own white Brahmachari vesh. And said, let them come and kill me, but Gurudev, you should escape and go back to Mayapur. So Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur is all powerful. He is not dependent on the disciple. But the leela of being dependent on the disciple was there. So one, in Radha Marg, one has to serve Gurudev with such intimate affection. And that Gurudev is always thinking, oh, how will he eat? Where will he sleep? Is he healthy? What will he wear? And Guru becomes dependent also. Very mercifully, my Gurudev, before going to class, he would sometimes say, Prabhupada, what shall I speak on today? In Navadvip Dham, sometimes he would be sitting on the stage and 15,000 people are there. But it's a big stage there. There are bolsters, but no Vyasasan. There's no back on the Vyasasan. So I would get a bolster and put it behind it and then sit behind the bolster behind it and hold up Gurudev's back. Like this. Literally holding him. While Gurudev is speaking. And sometimes when he was old, his pastime was of becoming old. Guru is never old, but that pastime leader is there, and then they sometimes forget some verses. So Gurudev would be speaking, and then when he needed a verse, he would just look over his shoulder, and I would softly whisper in his ear, Gurudev. Then he would speak. Thousands of people. Very mercifully, he gave me that situation, as if dependent. Actually not. I'm remembering the verse. Why? Gurudev is putting the verse. Understand? He's not forgetting. And I cannot remember. But by his mercy I'm remembering and giving to him. For what? Exchange of love and affection. So Guru is shelter of disciple. But disciple should serve in such a way. Like Rati Manjari's, Radhika is taking shelter of Rati Manjari. And then there's overflowing. All the bhavs in the heart of Sri Guru become manifest in the heart of the disciple at the time of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Raganuga Bhakti is attained only by greed. And greed is attained only by mercy. And that mercy only comes from Sadhu Sangha, the association of the Rasik Vaishnavas who are already established in that raga. Then, when Nam Prabhu appears, instead of appearing, making the spurti in your heart of Bhagavan, full of opulences, then this young, very tender and vulnerable boy will appear. And be very pleased to see you. And he's needy, he's thirsty, he's hungry. He's been walking in the forest all day, he needs foot massage. That Krishna will appear. So some thoughts. Come to deliberate on this. Don't forget these things. In Japa tomorrow morning, we'll have a little Ishtagosti in the morning as well. And then we'll be continuing with our discussion of Nam Tattva. We're trying to build it from the base. Gradually tomorrow. Tomorrow is also a very important day. There are at least 4 more, but there are 4 main festivals tomorrow. Disappearance of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Thakur, appearance day of Vishnu Priya Devi, and Vasant Panchami as well. So we'll try to discuss about Nam Tattva while at the same time glorifying all these personalities and important events tomorrow. Bole Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki jai, Varasani Wali ki jai, jai jai Sri Radhe. Gaur Premanande. So we'll sing one kirtan, and then I believe there'll be some mantra. वृंदावन के वृक्ष को मरम न जाने को, दार दार आपात पात पे राधे राधे हो, जय जय श्री राधे. Yes, everyone come. Hare Krishna over here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Bo, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Radhe Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Gopal! Oh, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Radhe Rama Rama, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram. Oh, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna. Vrindavan Hari Lal ki jai, Varsani Wali ki jai, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shah. Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jai Sri Guru Granth Granth Gari Sri Shivar Gunuraju ki jai. Nikhil Prashta Om Vishwarish Tusmarupan Vitarvarish Labhaktanantanayan Goswamiraj ki jai. Nikhil Prashta Om Vishwarish Torasara Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Nikhil Prashta Om Vishwarish Tusmad Bhakti Pragan Kish Goswamiraj ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Stan Swatakar Jagad Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Mahabhagavash Bokshodas Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Saptam Goswami Sajan Takar Bhakti Nod ki jai. Vaishnav Sarvoma Shri Jagannath Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Sri Rupanuga Gauri Gurva ki jai. Jai Sri Rup Sanatan Bhattar Guna Shri Gopal Bhattata Swami Sadhu Swami ki jai. Prem Sagos Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktabani ki jai. Shri Bhadamandala Ketamana Gauraman ki jai. Tibuna Mankar Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Gantarachi Bhaktan ki jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय सागर भक्त वृंद की जय मधुर वृषभानुनंदिनी स्मृति राधारानी की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल वृंदाए तुलसी जय प्रिय केशव सचा कृष्ण भक्ति परिदेवी सत्य नमो Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sundobheva Puritanam Pavanebhyo Vaisavabhyo.
Shri Prem Priyojan Prabhu, Shri Gurudev ki jai.
Hare Krishna.